Go now. I was thinking Sweet Child O' Mine for some crazy reason there, and I'm sparing the listeners my singing ability.
Yes, please do.
Where did we go?
You could have a solo career. So low no one can hear you.
Oh, so we got all three of us together for the first time this year. Will's been busy. We're late because Will was giving us a shop tour of some of the toys that nobody can see until, what, 2 weeks?
um, yeah, yeah, 2 weeks. I'm not sure how it works exactly yet. If we can share pictures before the show opens, or we've got to wait till the show opens before we can share pictures. The show opens Friday at 12 o'clock in Pomona, California, at the Fairplex. It's the Grand National Roadster Show. The 61 Impala that we're finishing up right now will be competing for the Al Sloniker Memorial Award, which is a very, very, very prestigious award. You have to be invited to compete. Well, I mean, I say invited. You don't have to be invited. You have to be accepted. So you submit your build, and I can't remember exactly how many they narrow it down to before, but you have to be accepted, and then they invite you to come compete for the Sloniker. So it's 8 to 12 cars, something like that.
I thought they cut the field. Am I the right show? They cut the field down to the grade 8, and then they.
Nope, no, nope, nope, nope. Stop right there.
No, no,
That
no,
that's
no.
that's a show that's in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah, see.
That is
Pomona,
like the show. That is,
say
that's
Pomona in January, Detroit in January. What's the difference?
Well, I'm going to voice my opinion on something here, and it's something I've kind of been quiet about. Honestly, is there amongst us builders, there has been multiple times where we felt Detroit has gotten it wrong. There's been times where we felt that they do not judge ugly. Um, and, at Grand National for the Sloniker, they actually look at how your car sits on the ground, looks at how your car actually looks with the driver sitting in it, how, how it looks moving, how it looks setting still, so it's really kind of, honestly, I believe that the Sloniker, they've really upped their game. ARP Fasteners and Bolts got behind this award a couple of years ago and has really kind of boosted it to. I mean, I hate to say the next Riddler, but that's that's where this award is going, is to that level of first time seen in public. But one of the cool things about the Sloniker and what they're doing at Grand National is you can post build photos of your car. You can post the rendering. You can uh, create a buzz about your build before it's actually seen completed in one form on the floor at the Fairplex in Pomona. So, I mean, it's really a cool thing. If it wasn't something pretty big, we wouldn't be, trekking 2,700 miles across the country to do that. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Grand National, they don't call it the granddaddy of them all for nothing. I mean, that's where the hot rod culture began. There's just kind of, it's in the air. There's this just yeah, it's just a car show, but it's indoors, it's outdoors, and there's just something about there's just something about that show, that area, that's just unlike any other show that you can ever go to. It's like the Pebble Beach of concourse shows. There's just something about it that it just makes it a little bit more special than everything else. Um, if I have a way to get out there, it's one of the shows that I do not want to miss. So, and this
well. I
year we're
think
at. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, your comment about it being, something unique about it or something special about it. and I think we say it in certain respects to certain shows or certain locations. For hot rod and street rod culture, it's going home. It's what you alluded to. It's where it started. It's really Southern California is the home of hot rod, street rod culture. And although there were, pockets of it all around the country, eventually Detroit, different areas that became known, that's really going home. That's going back to where everything started. And it just gives it that much more, life to the event. And I mean, the history that shows up at that show too, because there are cars that are from the very earliest days that go to that show. And
Right.
it just adds to that, the fuel that is there, and just the passion of everyone that is in at that event. So, and it's where, the next great builders are being seen, Big Oak Garage. I mean, that's the cool thing about those shows that happen where things began.
No, you're absolutely right. And I forgot what I was about to say because I'm trying to share this stuff on Facebook. But it's an awesome event, and for them to even be pulling it off right now is awesome. With being in the middle of LA County, California, it's got to be extremely tough on the promoters, John Buck and Kevin Doyle, and all the guys that um, have been busting their tail to try to make it happen. They tried everything they could to make it happen last year. Unfortunately, with COVID, they had to cancel the show, which kind of broke a lot of people's hearts. And there's people out there that are being really negative towards it right now because of the mandates that LA County has put in act, and it's kind of disheartening to see. I mean, trust me, Kevin and John, they're just having to abide by the laws that's been put forth in LA County. If putting a mask on or showing a negative test or showing your vaccine card is controlling you going to a car show, you're really looking for an excuse not to go see your friends and hang out with your buddies, or try to find new customers, or see some of the coolest, baddest old school traditional hot rods to modern hot rods to low riders. I mean, you name it, it's there. So it's kind of disheartening to read some of that, and I see both sides of it, but I'm not going to let that control my life and what I enjoy doing. And if I've got to put on a mask, trust me, anybody with a beard like this hates wearing mask, but I'll put one on and I'll walk through that show with a smile on my face. And there's ways around it. Always have a drink in your hand, always have a hot dog in your hand, whatever. So anyway, I'm going to be there. A lot of other people are going to be there. And if you want to see some of the coolest modern builds or some of the coolest traditional builds that were built back in the 50s, come on. I know this year they're doing a big thing for Volkswagens. They got one building dedicated completely to Volkswagens. Matter of fact, I'm actually hauling one out from Knoxville, Tennessee, back to LA. Car originated in LA, was built in LA, and has a huge following and a ton of street cred from back in the day. So we're hauling it out, and it's going to be it's going to be a cool ass show. And they're also doing something big for the 32 Ford. So two kind of special things going on. Not only that, they're doing obviously the AMBR, which is America's Most Beautiful Roadster, and the Sloniker. So it's going to be a big deal, and it is every year. It is every freaking year. So anyway, rant over. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, to go on the history of that, and you probably might know this right off the top of your head, but I'm blanking on it. America's Most Beautiful Roadster is one of the older awards given away in car show culture in America, if I remember right, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It's been being given away since I hate to even say, late 50s, early 60s, was it?
I'm gonna look it up and see. I do know that. I thought I was going to be the one making extra noise tonight.
Oh, it's a little puppy running around with her bell on. She doesn't
Christmas
bark.
is over. Get the bell off.
She doesn't bark, so it's the only way you can find her sometimes in the house. While you're looking that up, Will, I was going to pop in here. I was listening to, hopefully soon to be on the show, Mark Green's podcast, and he had John Buck on episode 1977. He's almost 2,000 interviews into his show just within the last couple of weeks. And John was talking about the Volkswagens this year, talking about the Grand National Roadster Show, talking about his other show that they do. Just throwing that out there is if you want to learn a little bit more about the show, go listen to Mark over with Cars Yeah, and catch about 30 minutes of a pretty good interview.
So AMBR has been going on since 1950.
1950. Okay,
Yeah,
there we go.
1950. I'm pretty sure it started in Oakland and then moved.
Yes.
Used to be the Oakland Roadster Show, and now it's Grand National Roadster Show, which is in LA. I'm not exactly sure when it moved from Oakland to LA, but anyway, yeah. And so the Slonaker deal, I'm pretty sure Al Slonaker was the originator of the Oakland Roadster Show and AMBR.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
and so,
But that's and going back to that, that's like, to me, that's one of the cool things, of course, being the historian part of it too, is an award like that carries so much history and weight with it that it just makes it that much more significant. It's not an award that was just invented in the last 10 years to recognize something. When you're going out there and you're going for that award, you're running with the biggest name. I mean, the people that have won that in the past are some of the greatest of greats in hot rod culture. It's just, it's all of that just makes these shows that have been around so long just so cool to go to and see and be a part of.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. So excited to be there. Excited to be heading that way. Actually, this time next week we'll be there, or 2 weeks. This time in 2 weeks we'll be there, and be able to show the world this 61 Impala that we've kind of been. I mean, we actually kind of debuted the car in bare metal there a couple of years ago, but I don't think I've posted a single picture of it since then. So it's been kind of kept under wraps. Tracy Weaver, Recovery Room Hot Rod Interiors, done the interior up in just south of Omaha, Nebraska. We picked it up from him last week, and he's actually coming down here at the end of next week to put his final touches on things and finish up a couple of little small things. And we're going to go out there and, see what happens.
I'm going to ask you one question before we jump into our topic here. But did the extra year that COVID provided you help you with the car?
Not necessarily. We just kind of, instead of putting everybody on it and knocking it out and getting it done, we just kind of kept piddling on it a little bit here and a little bit there. Pretty well had one guy on it for 8-9 months, and instead of just just hammering on it. At the end of the day, it all boils down to the budget of the build, and first off, this car was built for SEMA. It was built as a SEMA debut car from day one. It was never built to be competing for a Riddler or a Slonaker award. So we didn't have that huge Slonaker Riddler budget that a lot of the guys have when they start off building a car to compete for such award. So, just being accepted and being able to chosen to compete for the award was a win for us. So, if we were actually building the car to compete for Slonaker and Riddler, then the extra year would have really come in handy, because when they're finished, they're still not finished. I mean, that's just hot rods are never finished. They're just always a work in progress. So, but we did add a few little things here and there. A few more little one-off pieces and stuff like that. But I mean, to say it really made a difference in the build, I don't really think it did. I mean, we've basically been bringing the same car last year that we're bringing this year. We would have just we would have really compacted the hours that we've spent on it in the last year into 3 or 4 months.
The way we were talking about that, it did occur to me, and you might kill me, but we did talk extensively about that car back on episode 161 and the reverse wedge digital exhaust idiocracy episode. So if anybody wants to hear a little bit about
the reverse wedgie, I remember that episode.
if anybody wants to get into that, find out a little bit about some of the stuff that this car is going to debut with, go ahead and pop back about 30 episodes, 35 episodes. I honestly don't know what number we're on right now. I was really working on the audio podcast today, but
I'll tell you what I'll do tonight. Being that nobody's seen this car in 2 years, how about I give a sneak peek tonight?
No, I don't think so. I don't want you violating the rules of the show or anything.
No, I won't be violating the rules.
Okay.
I can basically show you whatever I want to show you, as long as the car is not complete or a complete picture of the car. And I could go out there and show you it right now, and it's not complete. So I'm not going to do that. But nobody knows what color it is. So why don't I just find a picture here, just to kind of a little sneak peek here. I don't want to give the whole thing away, but let's see here. I'm getting there. Oh, that's a video. Y'all keep talking.
Well, I was trying to, so I wouldn't mess it up. I was trying to get, because Jason asked, what is the Slonaker? Evidently, he walked away. So I believe the gentleman's name was Al Slonaker, correct, Will?
That's it.
And it's the Al Slonaker Memorial Award. And Al was I believe it was the founder of the Oakland Roadster Show. And
Right.
So it's a memorial award to cars being shown at the show.
So it's a dark color and a light color. There you go.
Looks like
Will.
Will may have turned that picture into a black and white photo.
There's another one. It's got Big Bear brakes. How about that?
Well, they're bare without wheels. So
Yeah, that's why they're bare.
Exactly.
Who just got bought by Holly, by the way.
It's like having bare feet. You don't have the shoes on; they're bare.
Yeah. And who Holly is building is planning to build a new world headquarters right around the corner from the National Corvette Museum. They're going to be our new neighbors.
Center cap for the wheels.
Nice. You're showing an awful lot here.
Hey, it's all right.
Confidence there.
Yeah, really.
Let's see here.
One of those cocky resto mod builders over here.
There's only 250 hours between now and the show, so somebody's
Oh, he
running out
can-
right now and repainting their car black and white to compete with Will.
Exactly. Will can build 3 cars in that time. Come on.
Let's see. I'm going to show you.
Wesley keeps talking about the car, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You think it's
Oh,
like
yeah. Hey, Wesley, sorry about the other day where you were in the shop and I didn't even say one word to you. Sorry, brother. I really am.
He just didn't like you that day.
All right. This one's going to be pretty quick. So here's
remember, people can pause this video, so it could end up being minutes and minutes. So
true. All right, I'll zoom in a little bit farther. All right, so it's a it is an all aluminum 509W motor. And you can kind of see that there's I got an update from Scotty D there.
I was going to say, Scotty D TV just said he's breaking the news of what you're building for the show.
But anyway, yeah, there you go.
if Scotty's out there, we probably should get him back on the show at some point.
But yeah, so there you go. There's you a few little sneak peeks. Here's another good little sneak peek. This is that's the Impala speaker grill kind of thing that goes in the back seat. It's not in the back seat. It's sitting on a table. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah. So everybody, that's where Will's been in all these shows that he's been missing. He's kind of like Wesley just said. It's cool. Got to do the business. Or got to do business. Something like that. If I could read 6 damn words.
Right.
There's the headers.
Hey, those are headers. Look at that. Wow.
Thank you, Advanced Plating, for the awesome polish job.
Oh, so now, yeah, if they want to sponsor the show. All right.
Pause. Yeah, let's jump into the topic here. Derek shot something out here and I'm going, oh, this is interesting. And then I've actually got some feedback throughout the day after we announced it. Unfortunately, I have a feeling they aren't. Derek needs to describe what we're going to discuss and alternative ways or non-traditional ways to sell your car. And technically, some of them aren't actually selling your car, I believe.
Is that the handoff to me?
That's the handoff to you.
Oh, okay. So, it really, the idea of this topic sprung because last week, of course, we talked about how do you, how do you pick a project? How do you acquire the cars that you're going to be working on for really more so for the hobby end of things, right? I mean, that's what John and I talked about. Will, you weren't able to be here.
Yeah,
but
I'm sorry about that. I know I had a lot of people text me and message me about
the show sucked. We wish you were there. We get it.
Well, it was before the show aired. A lot of people asked me if I was going to be on, but unfortunately, I was in Springfield, Missouri, on my way to Nebraska to get the Impala. So sorry for all the people that wanted to hear my input on that. Maybe we can touch on it again later.
Well, maybe we can weave it into tonight, but it got me thinking because, we were talking about, really trying to get more focus on buying projects or cars as a hobby rather than, of course, large collections that buy for the profit end of things. They're investing and they're buying this car because it's, $750,000 today. And in 10 years, they're gambling that it's going to be a $1.5 million car and they're going to make money, whatever. And it just got me thinking over the last few days. Well, what about when we go to sell those projects or the finished car? And I think mostly it got me thinking about how can we, discuss on this show and bring forth a conversation about how can you sell your project car or your finished car and help the hobby continue, rather than, oh well, I'm going to sell it for $1 million and I'm going to be wealthy. It just, I guess as we always talk about, we're here to, promote the hobby, get more people, especially younger people, involved in the automotive, collector hobby and this passion for what we all have. So just kind of, I kind of thought, parlaying off that conversation of how do we acquire it? Well, what about when, the people that are selling it to us, or when we go to sell to someone, how can we promote the hobby in doing that?
And I kind of liked when you threw that topic out there, and it's really not, it's not tying back to the project car episode, but a couple of back in 96, I think it was, my ex-wife bought a Jeep Wrangler and loved the thing, put 180,000 miles on it. Just to, she just absolutely loved it, commuted in it, chased tornadoes in it, killed an owl in it, all kinds of things. But it eventually, became a 180,000 mile Jeep, and it couldn't be used daily. And I did some work to it before we divorced, and she basically, she got the Jeep back, and she drove it a little bit, but didn't use it much, and it would sit in front of her house. And one day, a gentleman came and knocked on her door, or she was in her yard. I don't know the exact details, and asked her if she was interested in selling it. And she kind of said no. And the guy came back a couple months later and asked if she was interested in selling it, because he wanted to do it as a project with his kid, and he had brought his kid. And she kind of decided that, no, I'm not going to do anything with it. And basically gave it to the guy, because in her opinion, he was going to be honest, and it was going to be a project for the son. And that's one way is, we have some stuff sitting around that we know we're never going to get used. We're never going to get done. We're never going to restore it. And just that one little thing, the car had depreciated out. There was really no value to it. Granted, it's a Jeep. It's probably worth $3,000 any day of the week, but I think it was much more pleasurable to give it to somebody and let that kid learn a little bit about cars. And don't know where he is today. I don't know if he's still into the hobby or not, but that's just one way of, that's what I instantly thought of when you threw out that topic, Derek. I know it's not exactly what you meant, but that's what I thought of.
Well, no, I think it is what I meant, because I'm not talking about just our collector cars. Like this is an old Jeep. When your old daily beater gets used up, typically by that time to a kid, that's an older car. That's something, vintage in some ways. And they're going to want to build it. So it does, I think it does fit right in, because could she have sold it for whatever the exact value of that car would have been, according to Kelly Blue Book or whoever you want to go to? Yeah, she probably could have. But, and whether or not your ex-wife was, passionate about the car hobby and thought, oh, gee, this kid is actually, or if, she was just like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter. But, yeah, I don't think we have to think just about the collector cars in our life, but even just any vehicle we have sitting around, modern or vintage, how can we help? And that's one way, if somebody comes up and, it's a dad and a younger kid, or if it's just that younger kid, maybe he's a late high school, early college kid, and he's looking for a project car and stumbles across one. To me, take it into consideration. It's a kid, and I think it's one of the things that is keeping kids out of the hobby. They can't afford it because they go out, they find a hobby car, And the person they try to buy it from is like, well, I'm sorry, it's worth $6,500, son. I'm not going to sell it to you for any less than that. Well, I've got, $5,200. Would you take that? This is a kid that's scraping together everything he probably has to get something that he has a passion for. I think people need to start thinking that way. I'm not saying take a huge loss on something, but if you're able to, we've got to help this hobby out. We've got to promote it.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I just read something this week, and I can't remember who wrote it, if it was Drive Tribe or our favorite company, Haggerty, or somebody, but it's the whole article was pointing to the fact that reason we're not getting a lot of kids in the hobby anymore is because the cars are too expensive. I mean, anything out there, try to find a $3,000 car. I mean, it's absolute junk in today's world.
Mm-hmm.
5,000 might get you a car that'll go a couple of blocks. I mean, I think was the Bottle Rockets back in the mid '90s had a song, $1,000 car, and basically you pay $1,000 and you're going to go another 1,000 into the hole to make the thing run. So, you've got a $2,000 car, and unfortunately, that's now a $3,000 or $4,000 car, and you're still going to put 1,000 or 2,000 into it. It's I think it's good if you can afford it to help promote the hobby or move along. I read an article, or somebody just posted today on my Facebook page, one of my friends, that one of her first collector cars, or one of her first cars, was a Buick, late 60s Buick. I'm not going to get too specific, but she went and, had saved up her money and bought it off this elderly lady and gave her cash. And the lady said, well, let me go get the title. And then went and got the title and gave it back to this person, and then gave her back one of these crisp $50 bills that the lady had just, or the person had just paid for the car, and said, here, use this to help register it. So it's even that little, push, any of that little stuff helps. $50, $1,000. I'm not saying give away, it takes a lot to give away a car, but if you can afford to take the $1,000 hit and you're sure the kid's gonna, learn from it, or it will help him into the hobby, or he's excited and passionate, sometimes $1,000 isn't a lot of money.
And I think you need to, it's probably the biggest joke inside the car restoration and hobby that we have, which is the, knock on the door. Hey, I'd like to talk to you about buying your car. I'm going to fix it up someday. It's not for sale. You have to take a really long, hard look at that, because if you're that person that the car is sitting in the side yard beside the barn, waiting to be restored, and you're not willing to sell it for any less than it's worth that right then at that moment, and you never get to it, in another 10 years, that car's not going to be worth anything to anyone, you or somebody that wants to buy it. So I think it's also about, kind of digging deep and really truly thinking about what you're going to do with that project car. Are you really going to get it done? And if not, and if there is some kid out there or somebody younger that wants to be in this hobby, really think hard about it. Is it, like you said, John, is $1,000 off what it's worth? Is that going to hurt you in the long run? Because if you never do anything with it and the condition of it gets worse, you've lost that $1,000 anyway, if not more.
I was pausing for you, Will.
All right.
I know, I'm waiting because I know Will's got stuff to say.
No, I'm listening. It's fine.
Yeah. Will's selling cars at Barrett Jackson, and that doesn't
disagrees
now, with everything.
Yeah, I know. Now Will knows how we feel on days when he gets off on a rant.
Yeah, well,
like the first 20 minutes of the show.
Yeah, those things to say. The first of the show tonight. I remember. I can't remember if we were freshmen or sophomores in McPherson. Anyway,
that was a long time ago. When you get old, you begin to forget things.
Well, I don't forget this because I was pretty damn funny. I'm pretty sure we were freshmen. We were standing out in front of Templeton Hall, and these couple of dudes come walking up, and we could tell they're car dudes, so we start talking to them, and they were talking about donating a couple of cars to the restoration department, which I've always thought was pretty cool. It's a good way to get rid of your car and get a tax write-off and everything else. So whenever this topic came up, I immediately thought about this story. So we're standing out in front of Templeton Hall, smoking cigarettes, whatever, bullshitting. And these guys come walking up, and we get to talking to them, and they're, telling us they wanted to donate a couple of cars, but they wanted to walk through the facility, meet the instructors, blah, 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 whatever. And one of them was, I can't remember. There were 3 cars, but one of them was a 37 Lincoln Zephyr. And I'd worked for Alan Johnson that summer.
I know the story.
So said I'd worked with Alan Johnson that summer, and for y'all that don't know who Alan Johnson is, Johnson's Hot Rod Shop. He's one of the most elite builders in the country, one of the baddest dudes on the planet. So anyway, we were building a 37 Ford. Or they were building a 37 Ford. I was fresh out of college. I wasn't doing nothing but sweeping the floors and taking the garbage out, So he showed me a picture of it. He goes, "You know what this is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know exactly what that is." And he goes, "Well, how do you know what that is?" I said, "Well, first off, it's a 37 Lincoln Zephyr." And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, how do you know?" I was like, "We just cut the top off one at a hot rod shop that I worked at over the summer to put on a 37 Ford." Man, this dude about had a heart attack, which, I didn't really elaborate much on the story, but the Zephyr that came in, the only thing good on the entire thing was the roof. The dash was completely gone. The body was just toast. I mean, when that thing came in, it was basically a roof on wheels. But man, that dude, I think he wanted to punch me in the face. He didn't have much to say to me after that. I think they walked on in, and I don't know if they ever donated him cars or not, John.
I honestly
After
don't know.
your story, probably not.
Probably not.
I don't know whatever it came of them, but I want to say that car ended up there, so maybe they did. But
yeah, it was after we were gone. I know.
But
that's exactly what I thought of whenever we talked. When you brought this topic up, I was like, I gotta tell the story.
Yeah, and that's another perfect way to do it. If you've got a project car sitting around that you're not willing to, sell for anything less than what you feel it's worth, there's ways to donate those cars. And as Will just said, if you're doing it to a charitable institution, a nonprofit or educational institution, you get tax benefits for that. Now, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a tax expert, so I'm not going to say this is any type of advice, but look into it, because if you do donate it to a school like McPherson or some of the tech colleges that exist around the country, or even a museum that has a lot of auto museums have a kind of a student shop type programs. I know the Gilmore Museum up in Michigan does, and they accept project cars for the kids to work and learn on. And, Model Ts, I'm pretty sure the Gilmore had a Willis Knight at one point in their shop, teaching kids about Willis Knights and the Knight sleeve valve engine. So there's, as John titled it, non-traditional ways to also part with your vehicles and, benefit the hobby. And I think that's another thing we got to start thinking about. I know I've said that multiple times,
and I want to mention something about that too, is it doesn't have to be a restored back to original car to donate to a museum. Another shop I used to work at before I started Big Oak was Rods and Restos, owned by a guy named Neil Lee, another crazy talented dude that I owe a lot to. I worked there longer than I worked at any other shop. And one of my biggest projects while I worked there was a 1956 Chevrolet. It was actually a sedan delivery with glass. Super, super rare car, but we cut it up, made a hot rod out of it anyway. Grade 8 car. Won Good Guys Custom Rod of the Year. I mean, this was a big money project. Owned by a guy named Gordy Peters up in Minnesota. I think he lives in Florida now. But anyway, Gordy donated that car to a museum. And now, that car was a work of art. It is a piece of freaking art. And he donated it to a museum. So it was kind of, I think it may be even a museum that may actually take the cars out and take them to car shows a good bit too, just for display purposes. And so that car is still being shown, and people are still able to see that car and enjoy seeing that car and looking at it and scratching their head on wondering, what did they do here and how did they do that? And so that, that's another way to keep the hobby going. These high profile cars that go win the Riddler and win these big awards, and then poof, they just disappear or sell on Barrett Jackson and go away. That's another way for, these high profile hot rods to still be able to be seen.
Yeah, that's one of the worst things. And I know we're drifting a little off topic here, but I think that's what No Driving Gloves is about. That's one of the things I hate the most is seeing, and we've had this conversation on the show before too, I think, but seeing some of these high-end cars that people are, so aware of that have won, if we're talking in the hot rod world, the Riddler or, any of the awards that we've talked about so far tonight, and they go across Barrett Jackson and all of a sudden there's a black hole. They just disappear and they're gone. And, the article came up again today on my Facebook page. Haggerty's article came up about the ragtime racers and the, saved it from a life in a museum, which I don't remember which episode that was, John, but we had a long discussion on that. Museums are a place where this stuff can still be seen on a daily basis when it's on exhibit. And the general public can come in and see these cars. And, to be honest, there's a lot of people out there that, kind of want to badmouth museums and, the cars just sit and they don't do that. Sorry, most of us that are in the automotive museum world, we operate the vehicles. We care for them in a way that we can operate them when we want to, when we need to. It's a misnomer from years of it not happening, but there's a whole generation of those of us working in the field now that are changing that. And to me, it's almost worse. Like you say, Will, one of these cars goes across an auction block and all of a sudden it's in a private collection. Nobody knows where it is and they never see it again. It's when it goes to a museum, at least you know where it is. You can actually go see it. And I'm going to disagree with those out there that say we don't run our stuff and take it out. We do. I'm sorry. We flat out do. Unlike some private collectors that don't.
Well, I was going to add to that. Obviously, I've worked with nonprofit museums and various entities over the years. And, sometimes these cars do get donated, but the advantage of their donation is kind of the donor is getting full value in his tax write-off type thing, however you want to manipulate the numbers. And they're very happy with it. And sometimes the cars or the donations don't fit the core, idea of the museum, but some of these museums will take them. I don't know, what kind of warehousing some museums have, but others have more. And they agree to take the car and keep it for the prerequisite, whatever. It was 2 years when last time I was dealing with museums.
3 years.
I guess it's changed now. I was thinking it had, but they hold the car for a period of time and then they can sell it for anything, and they don't necessarily care what they get for it. And that's putting a project car back. The donor gets a $15,000 tax write-off, and then the museum 3 years later, 4 years later, will sell it for $5,000-$6,000 maybe. The donor's happy with it. Somebody gets a pretty good deal, and the museum then has funding to continue its operation. One of the places I used to work, we would do that quite often. We guarantee that we would hold the vehicle, and then after the set time, the decision was made, does it fit the collection? We didn't even make the decision until the time period went by. And if it didn't fit the collection, we actually would go through and make the car viable and running. We wouldn't necessarily restore it, but I know there was a gray market Mercedes that, we ended up redoing the fuel injection on, and, $5,000 or $6,000 worth of work that we never saw back, but it put that car back in somebody's hands as a collectible automobile for a lot less than what the market was going to ask for it. It's just, we didn't want to sell something to somebody and they go, oh, this is absolute, junk. We were very upfront, but we did try to make it the best vehicle to sell. It maximizes our money. A running vehicle will always bring a little bit more money than a non-running vehicle, which again helps the museum. But there are deals to be had that way, trying to get into the hobby. And if you're working with reputable places and reputable museums, most of them aren't out there to screw anybody, or they're there because they have a passion for the automobile, and they will work with you. If you absolutely have to maximize the value of your car, you can donate it. But there's, like Derek was saying, there's all kinds of programs and things you can do with your vehicle. Unfortunately, there's not as many as there used to be, and that's more insurance reasons, I believe, than it is actually the schools don't have the tools. The schools have no problem.
I gotta cut you off for a second, John. So the reason that I didn't make the show last week, the last guy that commented, Tracy Weaver, y'all could give him hell about it. It was his fault.
Nice job, Tracy.
He's the one that done the interior in the Impala. So
actually, thanks for tying Will up. The show was better without him.
Now, Derek and I actually had a very non-academic, fun show for it.
I think we actually had more comments last week. Maybe we need to fire Will. That's what we got to do. And I'm going to jump in and be. I'm going to be that guy because I don't want people to get the wrong impression. And each museum is going to be different. We all have different policies. We all have different, rules to, how we accept things,
budgets,
deal with, budgets, deal with cars. And remember, museums are going to say no. So don't be offended, and don't, we have, yes, we're a nonprofit, but we're still running a business, if you will. We still have to mind our budget. We still have to be conscious of what we're doing. And it sucks, but one of the hardest things that you have to learn if you work in a collections department and are, say, a curator, director of collections, registrar, you learn how to say no, because we can't take everything. And it's a burden upon the institution, even if we would like to. But everyone's different. I mean, Toby's, everybody sees Toby Stinson commenting over here from Owl's Head out in Maine. And, they have a cool auction program. So they have a little different policies and a little different ways they can do things with what they have set up than, what we do at the NCM. We have some different policies and different ways we handle donations for either the collection or for fundraising purposes. And, so if you're thinking about it, talk to the institution that you're thinking about giving it to. Don't just assume that they're going to want it. You got to talk to them.
Yeah, talk to them. And if they don't want it, they may have an idea where it could go or some.
Oh, I've
alternatives for
sent
you.
sent cars multiple directions.
But Derek's right. There is a cost involved for these museums to take these cars, and because if they're sold immediately, they have to sell for a certain percentage of the declared value that is used on the tax forms. If it's not sold for that, then the donor's liable for whatever the difference would have been. That's why a lot of the institutions do keep them a period of time. But to do that, there has to be space for them. There has to be a building. And, let's see here, figure cheapest place I know to store a car, $35 a month. Cheapest place I know to store a car indoors, $100 a month. So you can figure that there's a $3,600 investment for that museum to hold that car for 3 years before they do anything with it. So Derek is right that not everybody's going to take everything, and various organizations will are more desperate or more lenient or have different programs in place. But we're trying to get these cars back into what I want to say, the enthusiast hands, the young people that want that project car that don't have the money.
I will take all donations of old cars and
Shut up, Will.
get them in the hands of people that can enjoy them.
We're not gonna. No, do not give anything to Will because he'll just resto mod it. Because, yeah,
I don't resto mod nothing because there's no such freaking thing. So
I think that's Will's license plate now. We were just up at a shop the other day.
Resto mod. Nice. Well, actually, we could like draw a line. Anything, let's go nickel era and earlier can come to me, and anything, post nickel era, you take. Is that where we're drawing the line?
sure. Actually,
And all mini truck donations go to John Viviani.
Actually, I'll just take them all, and I will distribute them how they need to be distributed. So,
But if you want to know the bad thing, somebody, I think we talked about it last year, offered me that CRX, and I turned it down. And I just watched pictures of it this week being donated somewhere else, along with 2 other cars out of that gentleman's quote collection, as he's downsizing for retirement. And I saw that picture and I go, damn, I really should have taken that car. I don't know what the heck I would do with it now, being in an apartment, but I really,
see,
I felt.
I would have kept it for you, John.
Yeah.
I would've kept
See, Will's offering to store things for free for you.
Yeah, outdoors.
We might could work something out.
I've only been talking to Will about that for 4 years now. Of course,
Well,
it's a much
he'll-
bigger car than a CRX.
John, he'll store it for free, but the bill for working on it is huge.
He'll store it for free, but the bill for returning it is huge.
That's right. There we go.
So, I don't know. Did we throw out enough ideas or any ideas?
I don't know. I hope so. I think it was a good show.
I think if you've got a yard full of a couple of cars that you need to get rid of, man, don't just call the scrap dude to come get them.
No, definitely don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do
Man,
that.
that's a big no. Call around to your local car dealership or hot rod shop or church. I mean, I'm sure church would have taken a donation for something like that and pay to get it running and give it to one of their members that needs a car. I mean, just don't call the scrap dude and have him come get it and pick it up, haul it off scrap.
I sit there and cry every time you see those junkyards that they're just bring a portable crusher to and chew them up like a snowblower goes through snow.
But yeah, that's my big thing. Just don't haul them off for scrap. There's something good on that car, no matter what it is. So that's my closing words.
I was going somewhere with that, and all of a sudden I forgot. Oops. So my words of wisdom will have to go unknown unless they pop up while Derek's doing some closing statements.
I really don't think anyone's at a loss there, John. No, I'm just, I guess if my closing words, I would just encourage anybody that's listens to us that, has project cars sitting around and doesn't know what to do with them. Think about a way you can get those into the hands of a young kid and bring a new generation into this, because we're all feeling it. We're all struggling to know that the future is going to keep things going. And if we can promote that somehow, let's do it.
One more thing with show, promoters like Good Guys and NSRA really opening up the year making models to come to their events. Those cars that are sitting behind people's houses, they're not, they're not an undesirable vehicle now. The cutoff limit for these shows kind of dictates what people build. So just keep that in the back of your mind too, as you're calling the scrap dude to come get your, 87 Camaro or whatever. Those cars are becoming desirable and people are building them. So anyway, there you go.
I'm watching the comments. Jason, Phil just knows when to join when the good part happens.
When John forgets what he's saying.
No, John kind of remembered what he was saying.
When John's done talking.
We got a message talking about I guess he's more complimenting the show or any such. So we appreciate that.
Thank you, whoever John's talking about.
Somebody sent it private messaged us on through the Facebook page. But where I was going is there's all these memes on Facebook, and there's the one that have a 47 pickup, blah blah blah, and it's 4 tires and everything else is rusted. It just has some rust, and it's a joke about selling it, or the car or pickup that's got the tree growing through it, and I'm going to get to it someday, or it's worth $30,000 in that. If you have a tree that's actually growing through your car or growing out of the bed of your pickup truck or something like that, start to deal with the reality that you're probably not going to get to that project, and, let it go to somebody who's going to do something with it rather than it just sit there and rot and rot and rot.
But the cool thing about that is if it's the right year car or truck, you can cut the tree down, have the lumber milled, and actually use it in the project.
But that would be more of that resto mod, because more than likely that tree isn't the wood that was originally.
If it's an oak or an ash tree, you're probably going to have something that you can use it for.
I'm just thinking, cut it into veneers for all the station wagons in the world and minivans.
Yeah.
But
every time y'all use that damn word, all you're doing is giving Barrett Jackson credit.
Well,
just FYI there, okay?
Craig gave me a compliment at one point in my life.
I'm just giving you, stress and anger.
That don't stress me out. If you knew what I dealt with on a daily basis, you would be laughing at that.
No. I will start using the term modified restoration.
I like that better.
But I think it's about time to jump. We're almost exactly on that 60-minute mark. Any parting words from anybody, or I'm going to get out of here and maybe do some podcast stuff behind the scenes.
I'm going to go work on Impala.
I'm going to do something, probably involving work of some kind.
I'm going to go check out this belly dancer with the bells behind me.
How much snow did y'all get the other night, Derek?
Like 4 or 5 inches.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I got to find that in broadcast button, and that's it. We
Adios.
should be out of here.